How a confused convict killed his ex and her new boyfriend. Stephen Hawthorne, a convicted murderer, has been thrust into the spotlight once again, facing accusations of a heinous and brutal crime. While still out on bond for a pending gun case, he stands accused of perpetrating a horrifying act of violence in South Chicago. According to Cook County prosecutors, Hawthorne is alleged to have mercilessly beaten his ex-girlfriend, Tamara Washington, to death and fatally shot her current boyfriend, Norman Redden. The chilling incident unfolded in Washington's home in the early hours of a fateful Sunday. Armed with a 9mm handgun, Hawthorne reportedly gained entry to the residence using a key. There, he shot Redden in the head before pursuing Washington out into the street. It was there that he continued his rampage, firing at her uncle as they struggled over the weapon. Washington's two young daughters and her uncle managed to escape and seek refuge, but the nightmare was far from over. Hawthorne caught up with Washington again, shooting her in the arm and brutally assaulting her with a gun. Shockingly, he then resorted to using a large rock, repeatedly dropping it on her head, leaving a trail of unimaginable horror. As the investigation unfolds, the community and authorities are left grappling with the unsettling question of how someone with a history of violent offenses could be out on bond, giving rise to concerns about the effectiveness of the justice system. For now, Stephen Hawthorne remains behind bars, charged with murder and attempted murder, while a shattered community mourns the loss of two lives and demands justice for the unfathomable tragedy. Hawthorne is alleged to have brazenly invaded Tamara Washington's home armed with a deadly 9mm handgun. Without hesitation, he aimed and fired a fatal shot at her current boyfriend, Norman Redden, striking him in the head. The echoes of the gunshot reverberated through the house, setting off a chain reaction of fear and panic. As chaos erupted, Washington must have been gripped with terror, realizing the threat that was now pursuing her. Desperate to escape the wrath of her assailant, she fled into the streets, her heart pounding in her chest. Hawthorne showed no signs of relenting. Instead, he relentlessly pursued her, driven by a sinister intent. The dimly lit street served as a haunting backdrop for this horrifying chase, with Hawthorne closing the gap between them with every step. Fear, adrenaline, and desperation must have fueled Washington's flight as she sought safety in the refuge of neighbors' homes, but Hawthorne's determination knew no bounds. The sinister scene unfolded like a nightmare, a once familiar neighborhood now transformed into a sinister battleground. As the harrowing chase continued, it seemed as though time stood still and the outcome hung in a precarious balance. The aftermath of this tragic event would leave an indelible scar on the community, forever haunted by the senseless violence that had shattered their peace. Incredible bravery and fast thinking were demonstrated by Washington's uncle as he made a last-ditch effort to shield his family and himself from the storm of incoming gunfire. As Hawthorne took aim and fired two shots in their direction, luck was on their side as both bullets miraculously missed their target. To use the opportunity to escape the clutches of their aggressor, the uncle deftly feigned injuries by claiming to be wounded by the stray rounds. This allowed them to get away from the person who was attacking them. This deception succeeded in diverting Hawthorne's attention for a short period of time, providing the uncle with a brief window in which to create a distraction and earn valuable seconds to escape. After the attempt to subdue them had been unsuccessful, fear and adrenaline began coursing through their veins as they seized the opportunity to escape to a safer location. During those crucial moments, the uncle's bravery in the face of peril played a significant role in ensuring they would survive. This exemplifies the strength of the human spirit when confronted with life-threatening conditions. This courageous move, without a doubt, purchased critical time and highlighted the resiliency and creativity of men who are facing incredible risk, even though it's possible that the escape was just temporary. Their struggle for survival in the midst of such anarchy and fear is illustrative of the tenacious human drive to survive in spite of all odds being stacked against them. The terrifying chase came to a nail-biting climax when Hawthorne eventually caught up with Tamara Washington after all of its earlier twists and turns. As he calmly and deliberately fired a shot at her, striking her in the arm, the atmosphere was dense with terror and desperation. It's hard to imagine how agonizing the pain was, yet that was just the beginning of her suffering. Hawthorne attacked his vulnerable victim in a cruel and unrelenting manner, employing the same weapon that had caused her bodily misery in the first place. His heart was as black as the night itself, and he possessed a heart as dark as the night. During the callous and violent assault that he committed against her, the gun served as both a tool of his depravity and an instrument of horror for the victim. However, the terrifying events did not end there. In an act of incomprehensible cruelty, Hawthorne turned to a large boulder, holding it far over his head and repeatedly bringing it crashing down upon her skull. This went on for a number of times. Washington's body was left damaged and battered as a result of each blow, and she became a victim of the senseless violence that had been committed against her. The image offered a picture of pure evil, providing a view into the depths of a damaged mind that was capable of inflicting unimaginable suffering on another human being. The crushing weight of a nightmare reality that no one should ever have to go through was represented by the weight of the rock, which stood as a symbol for the crushing weight of dread and sorrow that had befallen Washington. The world was left to mourn the awful fate of a young life which had been lost at the hands of a heartless monster, as the blood-stained rock and the echoes of her cries bore witness to this abominable deed. The wounds left by this horrible crime will be seared into the minds and hearts of those who knew and loved her forever. They will serve as a dismal reminder of the gloom that may reside inside the human psyche. Tamara Washington's girls, who were most likely afraid and in a desperate state, yelled out for assistance to a passing vehicle that happened to be in their path at the time. Stephen Hawthorne's attitude to their innocent request for assistance was shocking and malicious, and he showed no mercy even in the sight of innocent children. Instead of extending a helping hand to the driver, Hawthorne launched a wave of panic onto him by waving his pistol and threatening violence in order to prevent any assistance from taking place. The terrified driver found themselves in a position where they had no choice but to comply with the menacing instruction and keep driving, thereby abandoning the defenseless girls and their mother to the whims of the violent assailant. Rapidly reacting to the horrible scene, the police pounced onto the place where Stephen Hawthorne had performed his inexplicable acts of violence and took control of the situation. They were faced with a frightening sight of Hawthorne, whose hands and shirt were stained with the blood of his victims. This served as a foreboding witness to the evil that he had unleashed upon the world. The law enforcement agents were unwavering in their resolve to apprehend Hawthorne as quickly as possible so that they could fulfill their obligation to people who had been wronged and ensure that justice was served. The suspect's arrest brought an end to the reign of terror that he had been exercising and offered a glimmer of hope to the bereaved community. The police were able to locate and reclaim the weapon that Hawthorne had employed in order to carry out the senseless attack as a result of the painstaking investigation that was carried out. This crucial piece of evidence would end up being key in the process of developing a solid case against the culprit, guaranteeing that he would face the full weight of the law for his horrible crimes. The realization that the guy responsible for such unfathomable misery was now imprisoned brought a wave of relief over the neighborhood as the sun rose on a new day. The people could finally breathe a sigh of relief. The disclosure of Stephen Hawthorne's criminal background sent shockwaves through the community and brought to light a disturbing pattern of violence as well as flaws in the legal system. Hawthorne was already serving a term of 60 years in jail from a previous conviction for the murder he committed when he was a juvenile. However, in 2012, the United States Supreme Court issued a judgment declaring life sentences without the possibility of release for juveniles as unconstitutional. This decision resulted in his resentencing. And as a consequence of this, he was freed from prison in the year 2017, which has raised questions and concerns over the efficacy of the legal system in dealing with those who have done horrible crimes. Recent terrible instances have put light on the implications of releasing violent convicts back into society before they are ready to do so. Thanks for watching today's video. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel if you want to see more videos like this.